Okay. The Gemara asked the question we left off. If actually the Mishnah says that anything which is mitzvah shebegufo, something which is incumbent upon the person, you're obligated to keep it, to keep the mitzvah, whether it's an Eretz or chutz la'aretz. So why regarding Shabbos does it say lo svareish b'chol moshur seichem? You should not kindle fire in your communities, right? It's understandable wherever you are. It's a mitzvah shebegufo. It's unrelated to the agriculture. What's even the consideration? So Moritz said something interesting. Since we find Shabbos, the last third of the page, now that we've said that something that's incumbent upon the person is in effect, whether you're near Tzor or Chutz La'aretz, Moshe of the Kosev Rachmana Gabi Shabbos Lomali. So why does Torah write Moshe V'Seichem in regard to kindling? It says shouldn't kindle fire in your communities. Since we find Shabbos is associated together with Yom Tovim, Tiboy Kiddush Kimodos. Maybe every week the Sanhedrin, when they declare when Rosh Chodesh is, that will determine when Yom Tov is, and that determines why does Yom Tov have Kedusha, right? When the Sanhedrin declares the new month, what do they say? Mekudesh Mekudosh. They say it should be sanctified. But saying that means any Yom Tov which comes out during that month is sanctified, right? Mekadosh Yisrael Vazmanim. Yisrael's Mekadosh, right, is Mekadosh Dizman. But they didn't say the 15th of the month is Pesach, or they didn't say the 10th of the month is Yom Kippur, or Sukkot is the 15th. They didn't say that. But when you sanctify the month, the beginning, that will determine that the Yom Tovim that fall out during that month have Kedusha. They're sanctified. So maybe for Shabbos to have Kedusha, every Sunday, the first day of the week, they should say the week is sanctified. Like they say the month is sanctified, the week is sanctified. And as a result of that sanctification, Shabbos will be sanctified. It should be the same. So therefore it tells me, Tiboy Kiddush Kimodos, Kamash Moshe of the Chsiv. Stop. Kamash Malon, that's not the case. It's an effect all over, meaning there's no Sanhedrin Chutz La'aretz. Right? It's there regardless. Sanhedrin, there's no Sanhedrin Chutz La'aretz. I understand that, but that's understood. What does one thing have to do with another? No, it's Shabbos it says, Lo Svaro Eish. Yom HaShabbos Lo Svarish V'chol Mishra Serim. Shabbos, Yom Tov you permitted, Ochel Nefesh is permitted. But kindling, where it's not Ochel Nefesh, you're not permitted either. But when the Torah speaks about kindling, it speaks specifically, even if it's Ochel Nefesh, you're not permitted. Right? Shabbos, that's where the Torah expresses itself. Now, Moshe Kos Rachmana Gabi Chayla V'Dam. What about, it says, in your communities, Jews not permitted to eat chaylev, a certain type of fat, which is located in a certain part of the animal's body, although it's a kosher species. Dam, blood, Jews not permitted to eat blood. It also says, B'chol Moshe V'Seichem. What does it have to Moshe V'Seichem? Regardless of where you are, you're not permitted to eat chaylev or dam, or blood or this fat. Itzrich. So k'day techamina ho binyona de korbanos ksivi. Where does the Torah speak about not the prohibition of eating chaylev and dam? It's within the context of bringing korbanos. It says you sacrifice this and that, and said fat and blood should not be eaten. See, it's contingent on what? Because at a time when you have korbanos, that's when you're not permitted. Maybe when you don't have korbanos, when there's no Beis Hamikdash, right? So the whole binyan the korbanos ksivi, bismandi korban nitzar. When there is a korban means when we have a Beis Hamikdash, you're able to bring a korban. That's when it's forbidden. Chaylev v'dam, bisman delek korban lo. Maybe there's no prohibition to eat chaylev v'dam. Kamash malon, that's not the case. I mean, it's contingent on that. See, let's talk about similar. When there was heter bamos, when there was a mishkan, you were not permitted to build a private mizbech. Because Torah says, you want to bring a korban, bring it to the Mishkan. What about if there's no Mishkan? Right? And Gilgul was not a Mishkan, it was called a communal altar. The Torah says you're permitted, because now you're not able to bring it to the Mishkan. It's the same thing. Chelev and Dam, it's exclusive for the Mizbeach. Chelev is sacrificed. Blood is sprinkled. That's its location. So because that's its location, taking it for yourself, that's not appropriate. It's not appropriate, because it's something which is designated for that. What about if what it's normally doesn't exist any longer? There's no Beis HaMikdash. You're not able to make a korban. Maybe you would think it should be permitted. Torah says no. B'chol Moshe v'seichem. Regardless, Beis HaMikdash, not a Beis HaMikdash, you're not permitted to eat chelev and dam. Moshe v'kos v'rachmona gabi matzah moror. Right? Matzah moror. What do you eat matzah moror? It's incumbent on the person. Lomalik. What do I need that?
What is the question?
It also says Moshe v'seichem.
Why does it say that?
What does it say? Itzrich soktach b'chol ksiv al matzahs and romi yochlu. Now, the mitzvah korban pesach, right? We speak about how does one the mitzvah matzah, right? Machlokas, right? Zeichel midrash Hillel, right? It's a machlokas. Hillel and Shammai, they ate the matzah with the korban pesach differently. What do we eat korech at the seder? Korech, right? We have a sandwich. We have the moror in the sandwich with the matzah. Shammai didn't have a sandwich. He ate matzah, he ate moror separately. But in Bizman Shabbos Mikdash, Zeichel Mikdash Hillel, we do it to commemorate what Hillel did in Tar Beis Mikdash. He had a sandwich. He had the meat of the korban pesach, the gazayas, he had moror, and he had matzah. Right? It was all eaten together. Shammai ate each one separately. But factually, the Torah says, al matzah and moror yochlu. The korban pesach should be eaten with matzah and moror. So what would you think? If there's a korban pesach, then you eat matzah. There's no korban pesach, one shouldn't have to eat matzah. No, you're permitted to eat matzah. We're talking about the chiyuv, the obligation. You can eat potatoes also, right? Right? 7 days you should eat matzah. It's not a matzah. So as a result of that, I'd say maybe you're only obligated the mitzvah of eating matzah at the 15th of the month if there's a korban pesach. But if there's no korban pesach, maybe one has no obligation to eat matzah. So it says, B'chol Moshe v'seichem, no, regardless whether there's a korban pesach, you can't eat a korban pesach. In Chutz La'aretz, korban pesach can only be eaten in what? In Yerushalayim. So, and the Torah says, B'chol Moshe v'seichem, tell us it's what? It's unrelated to korban pesach. So it seems to be, we'll see in a minute, Tosos, like it's a separate mitzvah. There's a mitzvah to eat matzah with the korban pesach, and there's a mitzvah to eat matzah without the korban pesach. We'll see in a moment. Of course, there's a question. It says, Be'erev tochlu matzos. See, we have 3 psukim. It says, Be'erev tochlu matzos. Which Erev? The night of the 15th. Then it says, you should eat matzah b'chol Moshe v'seichem. And then it says, al matzah m'rochim yochlu. So why isn't Be'erev tochlu matzah sufficient? Over there's no mention of korban pesach. There's no mention of korban pesach. So what the Rishon, what Tosas explains is this way. At the time of the Beis HaMikdash, if you were Chutz La'aretz, was there a mitzvah to eat matzah? So if it would only say, al matzahs m'rochim yochlu, if you're in Yerushalayim, like a person's not in Yerushalayim, one doesn't eat the korban pesach, so one doesn't eat matzah. Be'erev tochlu matzos. You have to eat matzah. What about if there's no Beis HaMikdash at all, whatsoever? Right? There's no Beis HaMikdash. Maybe there's no matzah. If there's matzah in the Beis HaMikdash with the korban pesach, so there's matzah in Chutz La'aretz. But what happens is there's no matzah in the Beis HaMikdash because there's no korban pesach. Maybe then the mitzvah doesn't have any relevance to Chutz La'aretz either, even in Eretz Yisrael. Be'erev tochlu matzos, b'chol Moshe v'seichem, no, it's unrelated. It's unrelated. Regardless, it's incumbent upon the person, you have to eat matzah, even though there's no korban pesach any longer. We'll see Tosas soon, in a moment. So Gemara says, al matzah m'rochim yochlu, b'zman dika pesach. I would say, when is there an obligation to eat matzah? If there's a korban pesach. Right? Dika korban b'zman leka pesach lo. But if there's no pesach, there is no obligation. Kamash malon lo shul seichem. That you must eat matzah wherever you may be. So let's take a look at Tosas. Tosas, the second Tosas with wide lines. Bisman dika pesach ein bisman leka pesach lo. I would think, when would you have an obligation to eat matzah? If you have a korban pesach. If one doesn't have the korban pesach, doesn't bring the Paschal lamb, one doesn't eat matzah. Kamash Malon Moshe Seichem. Moshe Seichem says, no, it's unrelated to the Korban Pesach. Vim Tomar, yes, the Bio Dechsiv Gabi Pesach normally, right? But it says when you come to the land. It says when you come to the land. So if matzah has relevance even a chutz loretz, the Yishlom Dos Lomar Asay Mitzvah should be Shvila Tikonis loretz. Okay, that's we'll see that coming up. Vim Tomar the Be'erev Tochel Matzahs Nafko. What do we need Moshe Seichem to tell me that you have an obligation to eat matzah, even if there's no Korban Pesach? It says in the Pasuk, Erev Tochel Matzos, in the evening of the 15th, night of 15th, you must eat matzah. The Kosov Kovuchova, Val Korcho Shlobzman Pesach Amayri. We're speaking over there. There is no Korban Pesach. Dibzman Pesach, Mel Matzah Rom Yochlu, Matzah Rom Nafka. Otherwise, the Pasuk is totally superfluous. When do you eat the Korban Pesach? It's explicit. You eat the Korban Pesach the 15th night of Nisan. Correct? Eat it. And the Torah says, Al Matzah Rom Yochlu. And how does one eat the Korban Pesach with matzah? So I already know a Torah obligation. You must eat Pesach with matzah. So what is the Pasuk? Be'erev Tochel Matzos. Evidently, where it's unrelated to the Korban Pesach, right? You're not eating the Korban Pesach. You're not eating the Korban Pesach. You're in Tel Aviv, right? Tel Aviv, they don't eat the Korban Pesach, right? So if that's the case, I know Be'erev Tochel Matzah, you must eat matzah. So the Pasuk where it says you eat matzah b'chol moshe v'seichem, it seems to be superfluous. What do I need it for? I already know where the matzah is unrelated to Korban Pesach. You must eat matzah. The Yishlomar, so he answers, the Trei Kroi Moshe Seichem. Uberef Tochlo Matzos Trichi. Chad L'chutz Loretz Bizman Shabis Migdash Kayim. One pasuk I need, when you had the Korban Pesach in Yerushalayim, if you were chutz Loretz, they have to eat matzah. B'chol Moshe Seichem. Tochlo Matzos. You have to eat matzah wherever you are. V'chad L'chutz Loretz Bizman She'en Bis Migdash Kayim. Maybe if you have matzah in Yerushalayim, in the Beis HaMikdash, then you have to eat matzah chutz loretz. What about if the matzah is not associated any longer with Korban Pesach? Maybe the mitzvah is not in effect any longer, right? So therefore, I need the third one. Say no, even though there is no Korban Pesach, but rationally speaking, what would the havamina be? If you eat matzah, even if you have no Korban Pesach, right? If you're at time of Beis HaMikdash when it was in effect, why would I think that now that we have no Korban Pesach, you shouldn't have to eat matzah, right? What does one thing have to do with another? Right? Why is the person outside Yerushalayim, what is he eating the Korban Pesach? He's an onus, right? He's not able. He's there chorchoka, right? We just read about it, right? He's at a distance. He's not able to be there. He's contaminated. That's why he's eating matzah, without the Korban Pesach, right? So today, why don't we eat the Korban Pesach? We're also onus. We have no Beis HaMikdash. Same thing. We're not able to. So when you're not able to originally, when there was a Korban Pesach, you must eat matzah. So why would I think now that you have no Korban Pesach, you may not have an obligation? Why is today different than then, when you're not in Yerushalayim? I mean, what would the rationale be? Today we're also on this. We have no Korban Pesach. So we're all on this. And the person is there, he can't even make Pesach Sheni. He doesn't come Pesach Sheni, but he still eats matzah. But he still eats, let's say he can't. He's bedridden. He's bedridden. So what does one thing have to do with another? But factually, the matzah is not associated with Korban Pesach. He's not fulfilling the mitzvah Korban Pesach. He's all about to say, if there, yes, then not. No, he says both psukim, even by Erev Tochel Matzos, over there it also says Moshe V'seichem. He says, Shlom the Trei Kroi Moshe V'seichem. Twice it says Moshe V'seichem. You have twice. One for Bezman Beis HaMikdash Kayim, one for not Beis HaMikdash Kayim. When we had the Beis HaMikdash, we wouldn't have. So I was thinking something similar. The halacha is, a Bezdin, a Sanhedrin Kitana, when could they institute the death penalty? Only if the Sanhedrin Gedolah convenes in the Beis HaMikdash. If the Sanhedrin Gedolah convenes in the Beis HaMikdash, then the lesser Sanhedrin can issue rulings and put people to death. But if the Sanhedrin Gedolah are not convening in their location, Sanhedrin Ketana cannot issue that kind of ruling. So there's a linkage, right? If they're there, then you can. If they're not there, but would definitely qualify. No, that's what Torah says. You could only do that if. So there's a linkage. So also you have over here. I'd say, when does the Torah allow? Say you could, if matzah only has value if Klal Yisrael is eating Korban Pesach. If Klal Yisrael is eating Korban Pesach, being part of Klal Yisrael, you must eat matzah, even though you're not actually eating the Pesach. What about if Klal Yisrael is not eating Korban Pesach? So it's like, it's like you want to put tefillin, you're a righty, and you want to put tefillin on your right hand rather than your left hand. It's not, the mitzvah has no relevance. The mitzvah is only in effect when Klal Yisrael is eating Korban Pesach. When Klal Yisrael eats Pesach, you eat matzah. But I'm not eating Pesach. It's irrelevant. But the mitzvah of Pesach is being fulfilled by Klal Yisrael. The second part says no. It has nothing to do with Klal Yisrael fulfilling the mitzvah. The mitzvah is independent of Korban Pesach. It's an independent mitzvah. It's not contingent on Korban Pesach. Even Klal Yisrael is not doing Korban Pesach. You must eat matzah. It's an individual obligation to eat matzah. That's the way I understand it. Okay? Now, tefillin. Tefillin is mitzvah shebegufo, right? It's incumbent on the person. It's unrelated. Yet the pasuk says chi yaviacho. When Hashem brings you to the land, you stop putting on tefillin. First, it seems to be, did they put on tefillin in the midbar? Seemingly, they did wear tefillin in the midbar, in the desert. They wore tefillin, right? But the pasuk says ki yaviacho, and we said before going to the show, one says yaviacho, and it's explicit. When you come to the land, so good. When you first come, forget about you conquer the land. So the Gemara asks, right? Because it has no relevance to be. Here the question is much more. It's a different type of question. We know tefillin is incumbent on a person regardless of where you are. What does it mean? But the pasuk says differently. Ki yaviacho. When you come to the land, Asay mitzvah zu. You should fulfill the mitzvah of tefillin. Shebishvilo tikonis loretz. In the merit of that mitzvah, you'll be able to come into Eretz Yisrael. So according to this interpretation, they wore tefillin in the midbar, in the desert. They wore tefillin. Ki yaviacho. If you want to enter into the land, fulfill the mitzvah prior to going. Shebishvilo tikonis loretz. If you read the pasuk simply, ki yaviacho, when you come to the land. Yeah. Chofetz Chaim cites Yerushalmi. The Yerushalmi says that any generation where the Beis Mikdash was not rebuilt, it's as if it was destroyed in that generation. If it was not rebuilt, it's destroyed. So he explains why. He says, why was the Beis Mikdash destroyed? Because the sinas chinam. So evidently, if it hasn't been rebuilt, when it existed, it was enough to destroy it. So if it doesn't exist to rebuild it, definitely this issue has to be resolved. So evidently, the sinas chinam is still in place. So therefore, it would have been rebuilt. So why wasn't it rebuilt? Because the sinas chinam, that's an indication that unwarranted hate is still in effect. As much as Jews, they all said how much they love one another. It's irrelevant what they say. Bottom line, proof of the pudding is, we have no Beis HaMikdash. So that clearly says the sinas chinam. So to merit Eretz Yisrael, asay mitzuzu bishvil shetikonis loretz. Right? So if Jews don't wear tefillin, do we retain Eretz Yisrael? It's not simple, right? Sinas chinam. Every Jew had sinas chinam. I'm asking you. I don't know, but definitely, you need a certain level of fulfillment of the mitzvah, right? Most Jews don't wear tefillin. Most Jews, of the 13 million Jews that exist in the world, they wear tefillin, don't wear tefillin. Don't, okay? So I'm not sure what the critical masses have to do to merit to be in Eretz Yisrael. So now, Bishlam Mandiyam Moshe Kol Mokum Shatem Yoshvim. We had an argument. According to Rebbe Lezer, how does he interpret Moshe? Right? Moshe Sechem? Right? Wherever you may be in your communities. Hainu Dichsiv, Vayochlu.
We're going back to
That's Rebbe Lezer.
Omer now.
We didn't discuss Omer before.
So we're going back to
Yeah, we're talking about the Chodesh. It's according to Pasuk in Yeshua. Okay? When did the Jews eat of the new grain? Of the new grain when they came to Eretz. It says, Bishlam and Yom Moshe. Now, according to Rabbi Shmuel, how does he interpret Moshe? Conquest and dividing the land. Right? That's Yerusha v'chiluk. Conquest and dividing the land. How many years did it take? It took 14 years. So when we first came into Eretz Yisrael, if you're of the opinion Chodosh is permitted in Chutz La'aretz because Moshe Sechem means conquest and dividing the land, so when should a Chodosh come into effect in Eretz Yisrael? 14 years later, right? But you will see in a moment. When did they first eat of the new grain? They ate of the new grain only after they brought the Korban Omer. When they brought the Korban Omer, when they first came into Eretz Yisrael, that was the first Omer, the first Pesach we celebrated was in Eretz Yisrael, when we crossed the Yarden, right? Crossed the Jordan. That's when we first settled. And when did they eat of the new grain? Ma'avor Pesach, first day of Pesach, when they brought the Korban Omer. But if you're telling me that Moshe Secha means conquest and dividing, they should have been able to eat it immediately. Right? They should have been eating because the provision of Chodesh is not in effect yet. If you say what Torah says Moshe Secha means in your communities, so wherever you are, come there so immediately. You must observe the halach of Chodesh. So therefore, when did they eat of the new grain? They had to wait. They had to wait till the next day, till the Korban Omer was brought. But according to Rabbi Shmuel, that Moshe Secha means conquest, dividing, they should have been what? They should have been ready to eat it immediately. That's the Gemara's question. Gemara says, Moshe Kol Mokum Shatem Yoshvim. When it says Moshe Sechem, it has nothing to do with conquest. Wherever the Jewish community is, it's an effect. Yochlu. When did they eat of the new grain? Me'avor ha'oretz mimochras ha'pesach. When they crossed into the land, mimochras ha'pesach, the day after Pesach, meaning the first day Chol HaMoed. First day Chol HaMoed, that's when they brought the what? The Korban Omer. Mimochras ha'pesach ochol, meikar lo ochol. They only ate of the new grain only when the first day Pesach passed. But initially on Pesach, the grain? So when they ate matzah, the first Seder in Eretz Yisrael, which grain did they eat? Right? They ate the grain. It wasn't the grain of Eretz Yisrael. Right? It was old grain that they had. Right? Kashrut made. In the desert, they probably had grain. And there's a tosis in. We learned the Lamites Melochos from the Mishkan, because they planted, they reaped, they did. In the desert, where did they plant? So Tosis says in Shabbos that just as within their context, they lived a normal life. It's as if they didn't exist in the desert. They were able to cultivate. There were times we were in one location for 20 years. They planted, they sowed, they did. Were able. So the mochos had relevance even in the midbar. The Pnei Yeshua says no. He answers simply, meaning the materials that were needed for the Mishkan. What level of creative activity would you need to bring that about? You have to plow, and you have to sow, and you have to this, and you have to do that. Doesn't mean in actuality. That's what the Pnei Yeshua says in Shabbos. Rabbi Tosh says no. It was a miracle. That was part of the miracle. That where they lived, their environment had nothing to do with the desert. Okay, so they could have planted grain in the midbar. Somewhere asks, Almo, Akrav Omer, V'hoder Ochol. Evidently, they brought the Omer and then they ate it, right? They brought the Omer and then they ate. Elamandi Malachi Yerusha V'Yeshiva. But according to Rabbi Shmuel, that Moshe Sechen means after conquest and settling in land, that's after you divide the land, which is 14 years later, Nechol alter, they should have been permitted to eat it immediately.
Why is that a contradiction? Because that's when the mitzvah starts, but you need to bring the omer. Like, why are the two things mutually exclusive?
Torah says, you're not permitted to eat the chodesh. It says you must observe the laws of chodesh in Moshe Sechem. Do we have Moshe Sechem yet? The word Moshe Sechem means when you're settled in the land. It's 14 years later. The mitzvah only goes into effect after you're settled. The mitzvah hasn't yet taken effect yet.
But how do we know about this, the omer permitting the chodesh?
It says it in the Torah. The Torah says that Omer permits the chodesh.
That's what I'm saying.
So it says when did they eat of the new grain? After Pesach. The day after. So what did they do after Pesach? They brought a carbon Omer.
Right. So why is there a steer on them? Because they waited until they conquered, divide the land, and then as soon as they bring
But
the
this
omer-
pasuk is as soon as they crossed the Jordan. This was right away when they first came into Eretz Yisrael. This is before the conquest started. So if before the conquest, why couldn't they eat it immediately? At the Seder, they should have eaten the new grain. Right? It says, when did they eat of the new grain? The day after Pesach. Why did they have to wait till the day after? They could have eaten the new grain immediately. Because the Isser, the prohibition of Chodesh, only comes into effect after they've conquered and settled in the land, which was 14 years later. Elamandi Yomelach, Hirushi Yeshiva, Nechol Alter.
So meaning that because before that it wasn't even a prohibition because
The prohibition wasn't.
being like Kutzlar is the same thing because they haven't conquered the land.
Right, right,
Yeah, I didn't understand.
right. So Tosei asks a question. So according to this opinion, the matzah they ate at the Seder was Yosha, right? It wasn't the new grain. Okay? Tosei asks a question. So we'll say, according to the opinion that Chodesh Moshe says doesn't mean conquest and settling, the prohibition came immediately. Immediately. When they entered into the land, it was Chodesh. When you come to the land, you're not permitted to eat Chodesh. In Moshe Sechem. Civic community, it's immediate. But if it means conquering and settling, they should eat immediately. Tosas asks, even according to Mandi Omer, that it's immediate, they should have be able to eat matzah with the new grain. What would we say? Asay Dilchalos say, right? Eating chodosh is a negative commandment. So, and as you eat the matzah, and you swallow, what's the provision of eating? When you swallow. When do you fulfill the mitzvah of eating matzah? When you swallow the matzah. So we have a conflict. Asay Dilchalos say. Let's say Asay Dilchalos say. He should be permitted, that even according to the opinion that the Issa was in effect, it should have been permitted because Asay Dilchalos say. That's Tos's question. Following. Ephraim, you got it? Yeah. It says, according to the opinion that Chodesh was in effect immediately, we understand why they didn't eat the new grain for matzah at the Seder. There's a prohibition, but according to the opinion that it only takes effect 14 years later, after 14 years, because that's when they settled in the land, they should have been permitted to eat Chodesh at the Seder. There's no prohibition of Chodesh yet. Wait a second. I want to tell you Tos's question. Okay? You want to give me an answer? Give me an answer. But let's understand Tos's question. So Tosus asks, even according to the opinion that the prohibition is in effect immediately, they should have been permitted to eat of the new grain based on the principle of Asay Dochalos Asay. Because as they eat, they fulfill the mitzvah achilas matzah. You're eating matzah. There's a prohibition, Asay Dochalos Asay. The Asay of achilas matzah supersedes the los Asay of eating chodesh. What about if they didn't have a Yoshan? Let's say certain Jews didn't have Yoshan. Certain Jews didn't have Yoshan. It seems to be under no circumstance were they permitted. No circumstance were they permitted to eat the Chodesh. They had to wait. Even if a Jew didn't have. It's called Efshel Kaim Shneim. Right? If it's Efshel Kaim Shneim, you don't say Asay Chodos Asay. Right? But over here, it seems to be no one ate of the new grain. You mean to say there was no Jew who didn't have? Maybe there was some Jew who didn't have old grain. It seems under no circumstance was it permitted. He wasn't. So the question is, one we say Asay Chodos Asay. So Tosas gives two answers. One answer he gives, let's see Tosas. but it's Yerushalmi's question. Akruv v'od ochel Yerushalmi makshe lomad lo ochlu matzah michodosh. Yoasei de be'erev tochlu matzah v'yidchelo saseh de chodosh. Here, let the mitzvah say be'erev tochlu matzah, let it supersede the lo saseh v'ini chodosh. Okay, the commentators, the Yerushalmi answers. This is Yerushalmi's answer, not Tosafos' answer. They nasei the kodim dibur docha lo saseh de achar dibur. The asay of eating matzah that preceded Sinai. Right? We ate matzah in Mitzrayim with the Korban Pesach. We ate matzah. Or we ate matzah in the desert for 40 years. Right? When Pesach came, you're not permitted to eat chametz. We ate matzah. Be'erev tochlu matzos. So therefore, a lo saseh that came about later, achar dibur, kodem dibur in Mitzrayim, we have matzah. The lo saseh of what chodesh is Sinai. So a mitzvah, which is in effect before, cannot supersede a prohibition which came about afterwards. So, what do we say there? We don't. There's no such thing as asidol lo saseh. Right? I mean, logically, I'd say logic would be just the opposite. It's before and after. So it's such a valuable mitzvah, definitely should supersede the lo saseh. Say no. Inami, now Tos says a chiddush. The Gemara says if you have a brother had a person as a brother was a mamzer. He was a mamzer, illegitimate. So he was married to a mamzeris. Kosher wedding. Right? Mamzer to mamzeris. Now the brother dies childless. The kosher brother, right? Does he do yibum? Does he do yibum on the widow of the deceased brother? Right? So the Mishnah says no. He gives chalitza, does not do yibum. So the Gemara asks, one would say asay docha lo saseh. Let the asay of yibum be docha the lo saseh v'lo yovam mamzer b'kala Hashem. Right? There's a Torah prohibition, a negative command. You're not permitted to have relations with a mamzeris. It's okay. Lo yovam mamzer b'kala Hashem. But over here, the only way you're able to fulfill the mitzvah of Yibum says, Yivam Yovo Aleo. Torah says he has to have relations with her. So asay docha lo saseh. It's a question. It's a question. I'm just quoting you Gemara. Okay? No, machlokas. What they were arguing with a Gemara. What? No, so we said. No, the Gemara explains why. No, it's something else. So Gemara says because Gazrina bi rishonot to bi shniya. Because the mitzvah is only the first time. Once she's his wife, there's no mitzvah any longer. As a result of that, we're concerned that if you allow it the first time, ultimately he'll be in violation. He'll have relations the second time. Because really he has to divorce her. After the first time, he should divorce her.
So really you could,
but since it's Rabbanan, it's Rabbanan, it's offense. So the mission is telling us it's Rabbanan. The reason why you give chalitza, not yibum, it's a rabbinic fence. On a Torah level, you should do yibum. Tosa says, now, when we first crossed the Yarden, the whole concept of siyogim, they didn't exist. Right? Fences. Rabbinic fences. All rabbinic fences were legislated much later. For instance, the Gemara says that the first fences were legislated by Shlomo Melech. The whole concept of Eruv. Eruv v'chatzeros. That was Shlomo Melech instituted that. Certain rabbinic laws. Netilas yadayim. That you have to wash before you eat bread. Or truma. It's rabbinical. Right? There's no, on the Torah level, there's no such thing as washing hands. Either you have to go to the mikveh. Wait till nightfall. These were the enactments of Shlomo Melech. These are rabbinic fences. Tosas answers, you know why they didn't eat chodesh when they came in? Although asdei cholose inami, yishloma the gzeru k'zayis rishon to k'zayis sheni. Because we're concerned that if you eat the first k'zayis, you may eat the second k'zayis. Yeah, interesting. I mean, I would have said just more simple. I mean, a k'zayis is an exact amount. We hold the Yevshel Tzam. What happens if you eat a minuscule more? A little more than a k'zayis. So to make sure you're eating kazayis, you always have to eat a little bit more, because maybe eating less, it's not possible to know. So where are you? So even if you say asidil cholosa, say if we deal with other things, kalayim betzitzis. You have a linen garment, you put tzitzis. So we know. Asidil cholosa say the mitzvah of tzitzis supersedes the losa say of kalayim, of the combination of one linen. But when it comes to achilas matzah, only the kazayis supersedes the losa say. If you eat more than a kazayis, there's no mitzvah any longer more than a kazayis. And that's impossible to know. So the whole concept of knowing how much is more or less, you don't know. So you always have to eat a little more. So you're always eating a little more. So therefore, could be that's what it means. It's not because it's a gezerah. It's because it's the reality. The reality is you're going to be eating more than a kazayis. If the reality is you're going to have to eat more than a kazayis, you're what? It's a problem. I know, we'll talk. I'll tell you why he says kazayis sheni, do shalmi. Now, there's a machlokas, Rabbi Yochanan shlokish, when the chatzi shir osam min Torah, right? Or it's only rabbinical. If you eat less than the volume, is it a Torah violation or a rabbinic violation? Reish Lakish says it's rabbinical. Chatzi shir is only osam Rabbanan. According to Rabbi Yochanan, chatzi shir is osam midoraisa. So according to Reish Lakish, you have to say kazayis rishon otu kazayis sheni. Because if you eat only a little bit more, you're not in violation. So we'll consider you may eat a full measure. According to Rabbi Yochanan, you don't need it. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, the answer is much more simple. It's an impossibility. So it could be the first teretz in the Yerushalmi. Rabbi Yochanan authored the Yerushalmi. You know that. Rabbi Yochanan compiled the Yerushalmi. So Rabbi Yochanan, the first one is it's essay kodem, essay afterwards, right? No, even wait, it's going to be difficult. Either one. But kazayis sheni, yes, kazayis sheni is going to Reish Lakish. Of course, to Rabbi Yochanan, even a mashu would be an Issa Doraisa. To be continued.